Hello everyone and welcome back to another video from Aman Talks NRL SuperCoach here for the round 19 final thoughts. Obviously State of Origin Game 3 has concluded last night. Have to give congratulations to the Queensland Maroons. Devastating for my New South Wales Blues, but honestly just simply outplayed. We got worse throughout the series. Queensland just got better and they played a near perfect game last night. So it is what it is. I don't really want to speak too much about Origin, to be honest, but what I do want to start off with in this final thoughts video, of course, is taking a look at the game in terms of SuperCoach, which players may be more likely to back up or rest, maybe reduce minutes and the like. So easiest thing to do will be to go down the list for both the New South Wales and Queensland teams and see if there are any SuperCoach relevance points there. So starting off with the Blues, so Dylan Edwards is one of the more popular fullback trade-ins this round, although we don't have yet much clarity on the whole Nathan Cleary goal-kicking situation. Now, my guess is that if I had to have a hunch, Edwards kicks this week, but that would probably be it, I think, because the thing is, with Cleary having played already on Wednesday, they probably don't want to re-aggravate anything by having him, one, back up as it is, and two, to goal kick as well. Because I think Cleary will back up. I think they'll be disappointed after that loss, but I don't think they'll want to have him potentially re-aggravate anything in his groin. So I think that Edwards will probably kick this week. But I don't think that's going to be longer term. I think they'll be only maybe for one, maybe another week. It's not enough for me, especially with the news that Pappenhausen has been named, and it's seeming more and more like that he will be good to go. And NRL Physio has quoted saying that if he's fit to play, he should generally be fit to kick as well with this calf issue. So I'm a bit more confident on, not 100% confident on Pappy, but is it worth a trade of him going to Edwards? They do have an unbelievable draw Penrith for the next few weeks, but I'm not sure if going to Edwards, who might only have the kicking for a really short amount of time, is probably worth it for me. And similar with Brian To'o, he is probably someone who is a very, very good chance of arresting, I think, for Penrith. Obviously, played 80 minutes for the Blues. I think he made like 269 meters, plenty of runs. He'll be tired, I'll put it that way. I don't know how much Coke Zero he's going to have to perk himself up. But yeah, I think Bizza is probably someone I wouldn't be expecting to back up this week, and therefore is very difficult to recommend as a trade-in for this round. He was battling that LCL injury, I think, as well, in his knee. Stephen Crichton and Latrell, not overly SuperCoach relevant. Latrell's on the bye this week anyway, and Stephen Crichton, yes, he may have the goal kicking and probably will back up for the Dogs, but not overly SuperCoach relevant. Zach Lomax, I always thought that he will back up. Plays on Sunday, and I think, again, I look at him as a type of player who'll be disappointed after that loss. He'll want to just kind of pick up things where he left off and go back to the club and do the best that he possibly can and try to, just light a fire under himself, because he probably didn't have his best game as well for Game 3. We'll talk about Lomax in a bit more detail later on. Luai, not probably overly SuperCoach relevant. Cleary is very relevant this week. But as I said, my hunch is that he won't goal kick this week. He actually had he was very involved in this game from a defensive side of things. I think he had, I want to say 35 tackles. I'm just going to quickly double check that so I'm not wrong. Yeah, 35 tackles, and he made 114 meters. Like, that's a fair stint, even though whatever you want to say about his in-game performance as well, just purely from effort, that's a lot of tackles made. So I think Cleary again will be someone who can back up, but I'm not sure if he'll be goal kicking. And Parramatta, yes, we say it's a good matchup, but Parramatta haven't been that bad the last few weeks. And it's that kind of Western Sydney derby as well. So even though Cleary may play and may score very well, just the doubts of his goal kicking, me personally, I'm probably not going to be trading in Cleary this round. Reece Robson played, I want to say, 53 minutes. So look, he could back up for the Cowboys. Most likely will. Again, not overly SuperCoach relevant. It's probably more someone like a Drinkwater that helps, that he's going to have more of his Origin players on deck. Now, Payne Haas, 63 minutes, so that's a big effort for him, for the Blues, especially when he was carrying this kind of back issue coming into the Game 3. Now, I think he'll back up as well against the Titans. They have the bye in round 20, so he's got next week to freshen up a little bit. I would guess that he plays reduced minutes against the Titans. They don't need him to play big minutes, most likely, to get the win. He can probably get away with playing 40 minutes maybe, and the Broncos still winning that match. I think it just means that if you own him, you keep him, of course, but I wouldn't be looking at him as a captain option. I know the last time he backed up, he scored like 108 points against the Sharks, but it's just too much doubt for me with this issue around his back. And I think if you don't have Payne Haas and you're looking at trading him in, I think you wait until round 21. Just, he's got the bye round 20, he's backing up. I don't think you necessarily need to force it. And look, if he goes and scores 100 plus, it is what it is. There's nothing really you can do about it. I just don't think it's the right play. Angus Crichton probably will back up as well. The Roosters do have a shorter turnaround. They play Saturday 5:30, and he played 80 minutes, but he did back up for the Roosters last time. I suspect that he'll probably back up, but maybe gets, again, reduced minutes or reduced output as well, given that he played this full stint for the Blues. And then you've got Isaiah Yeo, who probably back up, but again, maybe not plays the full 80 minutes. Connor Watson is very relevant. He's the most traded in player this week. I still think that's completely fine. He is probably the number one hooker for me that you can get this round. 27 minutes played, so I think he'll be fine to back up. One thing I will note is that in round 16, the last time he backed up, he was actually, I believe, named off of the bench, but he still played 60 minutes. So just wanted to let you know that if you see that on the final game day, that Connor Watson's named on the bench, and if that maybe puts a bit of doubt into your mind as to whether you should trade him in or not, just keep in mind that the last time he was named off the bench, he still came on and played 60 minutes straight. So that could very, very easily happen again. And it's a good matchup against the Dragons as well. I think even named off the bench, look, it's not ideal. And if you have any doubt, of course, you don't bring him in. But I wouldn't let that stop me, even if named on the bench. We've just seen in round 16, he came on and played big minutes even off the bench as well. Spencer Leniu, not very relevant. Stefano, not relevant. Jacob Kiraz, of course, very, very highly owned at centre. Many people will be bringing him in this week if you don't own, which I think is great. A good matchup against the Cowboys. And then Hudson Young, only 27 minutes and has the bye in round 19 in any case. Now, for the victorious Maroons, Hamiso, not overly Supercoach relevant, but, probably, I suspect he will still back up. He just, honestly, if I have to be honest, I don't think he really needed to overexert himself last night. I know he had lots of runs. Just trying to find it here. Where is it? 98 run meters. But yeah, I just don't think that Hamiso really had to exert that much effort. So probably backs up, but not Supercoach relevant. Xavier Coates wasn't named for the Storm, so he won't play. I think Rob Toya and I think Shibasaki will both back up. I haven't heard anything. I'm recording this about Thursday afternoon as well. So still news might come out on Friday. So of course, if anything comes out on Friday, and it won't be in this video, but I would think that Shibasaki and Val Holmes will both back up. Munster, we've now learnt that he won't play this week. I never really thought he was going to. He was already named in the reserves, and just after the week that he's had, the poor guy, and of course winning and a very emotional affair, completely makes sense that he wouldn't back up this week, and the Storm have given him the game off as well. And just want to also send my respects. Not that he's probably going to hear it, but I will send my respects to Cam Munster as well. Despite him, being a Queenslander and whatnot, you wouldn't wish that on anyone to go through what he's had to, losing his father and then having to suit up for a game 2 days after. But he captained his team, captained them to a series as well. The scenes after the game with him and Billy Slater, and just his teammates as well. Like it's bigger than Origin. It's bigger than footy. And so it was just really, really nice to see. And, he is one of our game's best players. So, all my respect to Munster. Even though he's in my team, honestly, it's not even one of those things where I'm upset about him not backing up. Like, forget about it. Supercoach is just a small thing compared to what he's gone through. Papali'i, only 23 minutes, but he's on the bye. Harry Grant, he, apart from Connor Watson, he's probably the hooker that most people are looking at. He played the full 80 minutes, 56 tackles as well. I think he's either a chance at not playing at all. He's also had other hamstring issues earlier this year. Or if he plays, he might not play the full 80 minutes, probably plays maybe 50, 60 minutes. So just keep that in mind as well if you are looking at Grant this round. I'd be much more confident in Connor Watson's minutes, put it that way. Tino, 40 minutes. On Tino, he looked a lot better to me as well. So hopefully that's a sign that he's maybe kind of getting back from that sternum issue that he had, because I thought his runs looked good. He looked good in defense as well. With only playing 40 minutes, it's a decent stint, but not like a huge 60-minute effort. He was named to start for the Titans. I think that he'll still play. I have Tino in my team. My team's actually looking pretty decently placed for this round. So I may just sit Tino out of my squad altogether though. Just because, even though he's named to start, he might only play maybe 40, 45 minutes for the Titans. And his score might be only around the 45 to 55. So I'm willing to maybe take a bet that he plays slightly reduced minutes this week, but Tino's a bit of a beast as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays another 60, 65 minutes for the Titans on the weekend. Ruben Cotter, not overly Supercoach relevant. Capewell, sounds like he is a good chance of not playing for the Warriors. And Trent Leora, 65 minutes. Again, not really sure what Bellamy will do with him, but not overly Supercoach relevant. Kurt Mann, not that relevant. Carrigan, only 34 minutes, so expect him to back up, probably play good minutes for the Broncos, but not a trade-in option just for that round 20 bye, in my opinion. And then Collins and Nanai. Look, Nanai is maybe a second row forward major pod. He only played 4 minutes, which I'm very, very surprised at. But I guess Queensland didn't really need him, to be honest. So he should be very fresh. And could be an interesting pod for you at second row. So that's going through both of the Origin teams. Let's get into the kind of more popular trade ins and outs and if any of them, my thinking has changed. So what I've got on screen is I've actually sorted this by coaches ranked in the top 5%. So we're looking at the more higher ranked coaches and who are they trading in for this week. So no surprises with Connor Watson at number 1. The most popular trade of the round is Sanders Smith to Connor Watson. Now, I think Connor Watson is the best hooker to get. I've owned Connor Watson all the way through this entire Origin period. It meant I copped a few auto emergencies on the way, but there was just no hookers that I really loved. And Sanders Smith was kind of my fallback. Sanders Smith has dropped out, but I've got Connor Watson back. So I think I'm okay placed with Watson. Season average is 71 if you take out his injury-affected game. He's probably got the highest floor of any of the hookers we've got available. Him and Cam McInnes, but Connor Watson's got the upside. He scored a ton earlier this year as well. I don't have any issues with Connor Watson being the most traded in hooker. Neither with Nwangani Tawasi. I said it on Tuesday, I would trade in him over a Karaz. Not Karaz. I would trade Karaz in over Nwangani Tawasi, but Nwangani Tawasi's got the negative break even. So if you're accounting for that, you probably do need to just get him in this week. I would trade him in over a Lomax or a Val Holmes this week. I think the matchup is prime against the Dragons. He's back on the right wing, which I think is definitely the best spot in that back line for the Roosters. So again, Nwangani Tawasi is an awesome trade in this round. Completely get it with a negative break even. Angus is third if you look at the higher ranked coaches, and this is why I like looking at the rankings for the higher ranked coaches, because it differs a little bit to what the overall coaches are doing. Because overall, Ezra Mam is second, Nick Meaney's fourth, but Angus is sixth. But if you look at the higher ranks, Angus is actually pushing into third. I would suspect that a lot of people are probably selling the likes of a Sanders Smith via duels, probably people selling a Hosking, a Joe Tarpany, Corey Horsburgh. You can see Lockie Hubner, a lot of guys who would have been traded out in the second row. Angus makes sense for those particular players because of his price. He's priced very similarly to all of those guys. Now, I think with Sam Walker coming back, I would guess that Sam Walker plays on the right-hand side and Hugo Savala on the left. If I just think to how the Roosters have been playing this year, you had the 5'8" Sanders Smith on the left and Hugo Savala on the right, the halfback. Even last year, the reason Angus was doing so well last year was he had Luke Keary. And Keary was stationed on that left-hand side, and I think Angus scored like 11 tries or something like that, and I think he's only scored 1 this year. So, again, I like Angus as a trade-in for those guys if you wanted to get him in because he's at such a good price. His base has been up the last couple of rounds as well. I believe his base power was about 66 and 76 from the last couple of weeks, but don't quote me on that. I haven't got the numbers up in front of me. But for my own team, I'm not looking maybe at Angus this round. My second row is already looking pretty good. I traded in Kikau last week, so I don't really have that many slots available. He is backing up from Origin, so again, how good is his output going to be? I'm kind of happy to just see how he goes this round. He's got a break even of 51, so even if he goes out and scores like 90 points, 100 points, his price will only get really back up to 600k. I would happily pay 600k for Angus if I think that he's anything close to what he was like last year, where he got up to, I'm pretty sure, the mid 800s in price. So he makes a lot of sense for a second row forward trade in, especially at the value. It just becomes team dependent. Does it work best for your team? People may be also thinking I've got the duels to get like a Lomax, or I can get an Angus Crichton. So again, that's a tough one because they're 110k apart in price. I would almost think that Lomax would still be my preference. I think just what he's shown this year, averaging about 75, and he's only scored 3 tries himself. And I think Parramatta have been pretty good in the last few rounds, and I think they're improving under Riles, and they'll get Mitch Moses back very soon as well. But that's just purely head-to-head in terms of the player. That extra 110k might mean that Angus is a better buy for you. So you do always need to account for this when you're looking at your trade-ins. But yeah, no issues at all with Angus. I just myself won't do it at least this round. I might give it another 1-2 weeks and see if he's the second role that I want, because you still have guys like Hudson Young coming back. Isaiah Yeo might be an option. Britton Nicker is going to enter a really good run of games. Aaron Clark's been super solid as well. It's not like if you miss out on Angus, it's going to be the end of the world. except if he goes and scores 120, 150s like he was last year, then it's a different story. But if he's just punching out 70s, there are other second rows who are similar of doing that, capable of doing that as well. So on Lomax, he's the first gun center wing. He's the second center wing trade in after Nwangani Tawasi. I'm going to talk about him and Lomax, him and Val Holmes together. Now, on Tuesday, I was not way more keen, it was very, very close, but I was, in the end, more keen on getting in Val over Lomax, and a lot of it was due to ownership. But I've thought about it a bit more, and I think I would now change my view to Lomax. So, again, purely looking at even just this round, Lomax lost last night, Val Holmes won. I would think that Lomax is more likely going to want to put on a good performance after a disappointing, I think he played, not the best in game 3. Val was very good. He might just be a bit, happy-go-lucky. He's won the game, he'll back up, but maybe doesn't necessarily need to put on an amazing performance. Lomax has got this motivation, though, of, I stuffed it up for my team. I didn't play very well. I'm playing an informed Penrith, Western Sydney derby. I'm going to go and absolutely crush it this week. It is possible. And he's got better work rate. He's got better base power than Val Holmes. And in terms of the draw, so this is NRL SuperCoach Stats, and this is a tool that I highly recommend you go on. It's completely free, this website. If you go to tools and you go to player compare, it shows a summary of all of their key stats throughout the year. It also shows you the run ahead, and it's even color coded for difficulty based on season averages of SC points conceded to the position of the player that you're looking at. So all of these color codings here are based on SC points conceded to the center wing position. So it becomes a bit more relevant. And if you look at the run home draw, now things are a little bit different because this is a season long average. Penrith, we know, are a much better defensive team than they have been throughout the entire year. Similar probably with Canberra and the Broncos. There are some tough games coming up, but there's a lot of home games for Lomax between round 22 to rounds 27. He only needs to go to New Zealand once in 26. Then it's Sydney in 24 against the Rabbitohs, and then everything else is at CommBank. So a lot of home games in the run home for Lomax. To be fair, Val is very similar. A lot of home games, only really has New Zealand in 24. He's got Sydney in 25, and then the Cowboys in 21. Otherwise, a lot of games in Sydney or in Wollongong for the Dragons. I just think for the next couple, Roosters and Bulldogs is pretty difficult, I'd say, for Val. And I think Lomax, just with his work rate, despite the draw being not that great for the next two, I think he's just I think I've just changed my tack, and I think I'm going to trust the work rate. And the fact that he's only scored, I think, maybe 3 tries this entire year, Lomax, I think I'd lean slightly ahead of Val now for me. Because Lomax's ownership is still not crazy high. He's being brought in by 7% of the top 5%. Val's at 3.5%, but there's only a 400 count trade difference between the two of them. His ownership will get up to about 42 for Lomax. Val's at 13. So look, Lomax is still lower, still more highly owned, but it's not like he's he's like super highly owned himself. He's still going to give you an advantage if you trade him into your team. Now I'm looking at Val because that 13% really does interest me, but I'm just kind of trying to, in my head, time it as to, well, do I need to get Val in 19 or 20, or can I maybe potentially wait until 21? Can I wait till 20 if I want to maybe trade out a Karapani instead? Because I've got Joe Tarpany in my team who I could trade to Val this week, but I'm not sure if I need to do that because my team's not looking that bad for this round. But yeah, I think Lomax over Val now is where I've landed on. I don't think Val's run home is that terrible though, because I really like Cowboys in 21. Canberra is at least a home game. The Sharks is a home game, and the Sharks haven't been the best in the last few weeks. New Zealand is away, but New Zealand have this tendency to concede points on their right edge. Then he's got the Rabbitohs, which is good. He's got Manly at home, and then he's got Penrith at home. And Penrith, who knows, they could have gone on a winning streak by this point in time, and maybe they decide, you know what, we're just going to rest our players in round 27, and then all of a sudden that matchup looks really good. So I'm definitely looking at Val. Either I get him this week or maybe round 21. I just love his ownership. So you really can't go wrong. If you've got a preference for one of the two, go with your gut on this one. I think I've flipped though to getting maybe Lomax. I just think the work rate is a little bit safer. Kalani going is just enough trading. He's good enough for second row forward / hooker. If you're going Sanders Smith down to him to free up funds, I kind of get that. He does also then pair up with the Connor Watson. Now, Ezra Mann being the number one traded in 5'8" compared to a Jaden Campbell. Now, I get it with the matchup this week against the Titans, but given that Campbell is cheaper than Ezra Mann, I would definitely be going Campbell over Ezra. I know Ezra's crushed it this year so far, season average of 76. But Jaden Campbell, without his injury-affected game, has been averaging 71. He's got the goal kicking. I just have way more confidence in him as a Supercoach option. Yes, he's 50% owned, but I also think that's for good reason. He is one of the top 5/8s. He proved it last year, and he was for most of this year as well. So I think I'd be going Campbell over Ezra Mann. But if you're going real point of difference, I get it with Ezra. He's got that amazing Titans matchup this week. Kiraz and Kikau, so not many people trading in Kiraz this week, but as you can see, he's already at 89% ownership in the top ranks, so there's just not many people left to get him, I guess. I would probably trade in Kiraz over Lomax and Val Holmes. I'd probably be okay to get Nwangani Tawasi just because of the higher break-even that Kiraz has got. Nwangani Tawasi has got a negative break-even, and if you're thinking of getting Nwangani Tawasi, you probably just need to get him this round against the Dragons, and you can maybe get Kiraz next week. If you didn't own Kikau, then I think, yes, I would probably go get Angus instead of Kikau. He's cheaper in price and I think more of a Supercoach pedigree. But the next few games for the Bulldogs does look really good. So I'm not discouraging anyone. I bought in Kikau last week, but I did it last week to get that round 18 matchup as well. You've got the Cowboys, Dragons, Manly, Tigers, and then New Zealand at home. Again, they've got a tendency to concede points on their right-hand side. So I think that next, 4 or 5 games is actually quite good for Viliama Kikau. Round 24 onwards, you might want to reassess though and becomes a trade out at that point potentially. So again, if you're looking for more of a pod, Angus is more of a point of difference. Kikau is at 38% ownership. Angus is only going to be at 9. So I would take the point of difference there. Going further down the list, Tanner Boyd. I've thought about Tanner Boyd this week because I'm a King Tongia owner and also a Munster owner. So I don't have a 5/8 except for King Tongia this week, and I don't really like my prospects with him this round. So people may be going King Tongia out for Tanner Boyd. Now, I don't mind it in a nutshell because Tanner Boyd he's got the duel. He should be kicking. But I think there's a good chance that he'll be goal kicking for the Warriors. They've got a very, very soft run home. And he can just be your backup 5/8 to a Campbell or a Munster for the run home. Me personally, I've got 9 trades. I'm just wondering, is it even worth it when after next week, I'm just going to have Munster as my default gun 5/8 that I play every round, and I have real no intentions of wanting to play a backup 5/8. Is it worth going King Tonga to Tanner Boyd? For me, not so much. I think if Tanner Boyd was 229k and I could free up 170k doing that trade, I think I'd probably do it. But you're only freeing up about 60k. So it's not even like you're freeing up a bunch of money. And he's not in the top 20 most trade-ins, but someone like a Tyron Wishart, I've even thought about a Wishart this week as someone similar to a Tanner Boyd who, especially owning Munster, he'd be pretty much like a handcuff because anytime that Munster goes down or is not playing, or if Hughes goes down or doesn't play, or Harry Grant doesn't play, Wishart generally will either fill in the halves or at hooker. And last year, he was tremendous when he played 80-minute games. So I've even thought about Tyron Wishart. But for me, it's just a case of, again, similar to Tanner Boyd, King Tonga to him doesn't really free up that much money. I'm surprised to see Jerome Hughes getting a fair few trade-ins this round. I would think that if you already don't own Hughes, Knights away isn't like an amazing matchup, and a lot of people might be moving off of Hughes anyway to get back to a Cleary in round 20 as it stands. I don't know if I spoke about it before, but I probably am not going to be trading in Cleary, I think, this week. You've got Talon De Silva at number 13. He's got a negative break even, of course, now moved to the Eels. I get it if you're looking to move on Sandon Smith this round. I might be waiting a week though, just to see if I need to downgrade somewhere. And if Talon De Silva comes out this week and plays like 65 minutes, all of a sudden I'm going to be thinking, okay, he might get up to 270, 280k, but you can still free up like 200k going Sandon Smith down to him. If you just wait a week, get more certainty on his minutes and what his role is going to be for the Eels. And then he could just be a handy backup depth to maybe someone like a Connor Watson or a Harry Grant for the run home. So I understand it if you're looking to free up funds, but because we have uncertainty about his minutes, I think if you're just looking for a downgrade at hooker, I would just be happy to go to this guy here, Kalani going second or forward hooker dual. You get the dual status, which I think can come really in handy down the track. More people than nothing with Miles Martin. Turbo getting some trade-ins this round. I don't really understand it, just given the fact that he's on the bye this week. I'm going to skip over Scott Drinkwater and Edwards we spoke about as well. So Wade Egan, people are looking at Wade Egan as a trade-in this round for the hooker position as a bit of a point of difference. Now, he did start the season well, So if I look at his season stats, his first kind of 4 rounds, 48, 110, 55, and 86. So he had a couple of good scores in there. He's just really dropped off ever since though. So he had that one other game in round 8 where he scored 86, but since then there's been no scores over 60. And it's not like Connor Watson is outrageously more expensive. If you pay 150k more for Connor Watson, you're getting a guy who I would be comfortable saying averages at least 15 to 20 points more than Wade Egan for the run home. And when you're looking at rounds 19 to rounds 27, that's 8 games. That's an extra potential, 120 points. I think it's probably worth it just getting a Connor Watson. He's shown he's got a ceiling this year, scoring 103, but plenty of games at 78, 86, in the 60s as well, 69, 68, 68, 86. I just think Connor Watson's way more solid of an option than Wade Egan. I've never really been that into Wade Egan from a Supercoach point of view as it stands anyway. So yeah, look, I get it because of the good draw. He should be playing 80 minutes, but he does find these niggling injuries. So yeah, look, it's not for me, and I do think that I would be happier to just get Connor Watson instead. If you needed to make another extra, if you're really low on trades and getting to Watson meant you needed to use an extra trade for a downgrade and you're running short on trades, look, then it's a different situation, and I can understand then saying, okay, go get Wade Egan. I'd probably say if you've got, say, 8 or 7 trades left, and one of those trades had to be to do a downgrade to force in Connor Watson, then I'd probably just say, look, you know what, get in a Wade Egan, save that money and save your trades for higher upside moves down the track, because hooker overall isn't a high upside position anyway. You've got Naf White and KO Weeks. KO Weeks is on the bye this week, so we won't talk about him. Look, Naf White has been killing it the last few rounds. I'm not sure if I'd be trading him in though, because the last few rounds he's also been benefiting from Origin players around him, either playing reduced minutes for the Roosters. Like last week, he played 74 minutes. I don't expect that to happen when Collins and Spencer Leniu are back in that Roosters team. So he's been a great hold for me. I don't think I'd be trading him in though. You got Blaise Talangi at number 21. If you're wanting to get someone who is from Penrith to really capitalize on this draw, honestly, Blaise Talangi is not terrible. He definitely would be a major point of difference. He's at 3% ownership in the top 5%. He was pretty consistent for a good chunk of the season as well. So if you look at the whole season so far, pretty much it was like high 50s, low 60s, a big score against the Cowboys, a down game against the Knights scoring 35. But realistically, if you take out that 35, his lowest score all season long, 51 points with a ceiling of 112. That's honestly not that terrible for a 552k player. He's dual as well, so you can even get him at 5'8". I actually just thought about this as well. If you're looking for a 5'8", he's not a terrible shout as a bit of a major point of difference. And if you look at his draw coming up, Parramatta, Rabbitohs, Tigers, Titans, it's a great draw. So Talangi, honestly, if you're looking for pods at centre, you don't want to spend all that money, he could actually be an awesome shout. And I love the players who've got this centre wing 5'8" dual as well. Because, if you've got like a Campbell or a Munster, and if they get rested 1 week, let's picture ahead. It's round 26. All of Melbourne Storm players get rested, at least the gun players, and you've got no 5'8", if you've got King Tongia. But if you've got a Blaise Talangi there, it gives you that flexibility to go, well, guess what? I don't love 5'8", but I can go Munster, flip Talangi up to 5'8". I'm going to get Munster for a gun centre. It could be like a Val Holmes who's got a prime matchup. It could be Lomax. It could be a Lehigh Hopewadi by then, because Manly do have a good run for the last 4 weeks. Just having players like Blaise Talangi in the team can really enable some flexibility. So yeah, that draw is really exciting for Penrith. And apart from Cleary, I don't think many people are going to own a lot of other Penrith players. So if you're looking for a point of difference, he's probably better at centre than he is maybe than like a Casey McLean. To'o's got these niggling injuries as well, which makes me not as keen on him. Yeah, Blaise Talangi could honestly be a really worthwhile shout. So definitely keep him in your mind if you're looking for a point of difference. Even just rattling off those scores, a low score of 51 apart from that 35 against the Knights. We know he's got a ceiling. He was really good last year as well for the Eels. You could do probably much worse than Blaise Talangi. I'm probably going to pause there for the trade-ins. Harry Grant at number 25. Of course, the reason he's so low down is because he wasn't named for the Storm, and we spoke about him before. I think with the reduced minutes, I wouldn't be that confident, I think, trading in a Grant. This week, I'd be more happy with a Connor Watson. So that's all I wanted to talk about in terms of the trade-ins. The trade-outs, most of them do make sense. Like if I scroll down this list here of Sanders Smith, Luke Metcalf, King Tongia, if you're happy to use that trade at 5'8", I get it. Horsburgh, honestly, Starling, you could keep Starling as a backup hooker, If you have the decision between him and Sandon Smith, I'd be selling Sandon Smith first. Hosking, Hubner, Billy Smith, Tarpany, Ethan Strange. For me, all of these guys can be sold. All the Raiders players, they've got another bye coming up later in the season as well. And especially players like Hosking, Matty Nicholson will be back. Tarpany's minutes have been all over the shop. I suspect someone like a Corey Horsburgh's minutes will also get a bit rotated as well. So for me, perfectly happy to move off of all of those guys. And outside of that top 10, people are still moving on. And Asako in the higher ranks. I think if you held Asako, I'd probably just keep him because Sharks have been not the best defensively. And then he's got the Cowboys in 20. If you had Asako, I'd probably just keep him until round 21 when he has his bye. And then at that point, if he's your ticket to Lomax or Val, as we said before, it's not like Val or Lomax have prime matchups in the next fortnight. You can probably afford to just keep Asako and then trade to one of them later on. Cam Munster's getting sold. Look, I get it. If you're happy to move off of Munster and want to target like a really, another high upside 5'8", like an Ezra Mann this week, if you wanted to go Blaze to Lungy as well, I get it. I'm probably just going to be keeping Munster though as a gun 5'8" for the run home. And then you've got Pappy, which don't fully understand. I think the fact that he's been named, I don't think I'd be looking at selling Pappenhausen at this point. Now, very quickly on VCs and Cs to round out the video, because it's been going on longer than I thought. Teddy's the obvious one. As you can see on the screen, he's my captain as it currently stands, and I don't see that changing. Not Origin affected at all. Getting his Origin players back. The Dragons have been on the down for the last few weeks as well. He's 63% captain in the top ranks, which makes complete sense to me. He's also the number one VC as well at pretty much 25%. So you definitely need to have something on Teddy. I'm on VC Pappenhausen. I think if he's fit to play, hopefully he's fit to goal kick as well. My other option for a VC would probably be a Herbie Farnworth. We called it out in the matchups slide, but I'll quickly show that again here. So if you look at the Sharks, they've conceded 11 tries to opposing left centers. So someone like a Herbie could actually be a very decent shout coming off a bye as a bit of a pod VC, only 13% VC'd. And then you can stick it on, Captain Teddy. If you're looking at VC Teddy, your safer captaincy options are probably someone like a Terrell May, 7% captained. Carraz could be a bit of a point of difference, but I just feel, I never feel comfortable captaining someone like a Carraz. He's super solid, amazing option, but without a goal kicking, and apart from that game against the Titans where he scored a hat-trick, he's not someone who's generally going to punch out those massive hundreds. And it's hard to sometimes predict them. He's good for more of these scores, right? The 78s, the 90s, the 93s, all very, very good scores. But if you look at Teddy, Teddy can go 119. Like, he can more consistently hit a ton. That's why I think so many people are going to default to Teddy captain. And I'm in that boat as well. So that's some of my updated thoughts post Origin. Hopefully you will enjoy that video. I've got a separate video on Patreon to go through my own trades and team if you want to do check that out. But thank you all for tuning in. Good luck for the weekend and catch you all in the next one. Cheers.